Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here today. I am excited to check this one out again. I've covered Axie previously, and I'm going to cover it again here today based on my community asking me to cover it. So thank you to my patrons, community members for recommending that I cover this one because it's pretty exciting. I love to see when coins are moving contrary to Bitcoin or just exploding in general. So we'll take a look at that. This is technical analysis, of course. Really no fundamentals here. Always do your own research. Please, please, please make sure you do that. And this is for educational purposes only. I am not a professional, but I do have a lot of trading experience, 10 plus years in trading, and I'm more than happy to help you, learn best practice and essentially, educate you along the way. I'm not just going to give you the answer. I'm going to teach you how to find the answer yourself. So hopefully you stick around and enjoy this, of course. So, before we get started though, too, just make sure to reference my Patreon account. I do have a signal group currently trending about 75 to 85% right now. As an average for the signals that are successful. So feel free to reference that in your own time, of course. Really appreciate you checking that out. First of the month is the best time to register. Also note, I have a Telegram community, really good group of folks there. You can learn a lot, just absorbing and sponging and communicating intermittently whenever you'd like. Completely optional, of course. Check that out in your own time again. So I hope you enjoy the video. Let's go ahead and check it out. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at Axie, which is AXS. And before we do, we always look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first to get a baseline of the market so we can see what's going on and understand, big picture before making an investment. It's always important to do that. That way we understand the correlation between these altcoins as well as, how they're impacted and they move together or separately. So we'll take a look at that here. Now, first things first, we'll look at Bitcoin. This is TradingView.com desktop application, and I utilize the 4-hour chart primarily for a majority of my indicators, if you will. They're the best indicators that you can utilize on the 4-hour chart. Now, I'll explain more about that here in a moment, but we're looking at the 4-hour for Bitcoin, and this is essentially the current state of the nation. So we had a previous, descending wedge pattern here, or I think it's like descending triangle, and it looked like it just broke out. So you see here, we just go ahead and broke straight through that. So no longer considered to be a resistance there because that 4-hour time frame did close above. Same with the 1-day chart too. That 1-day candle closed above. So we can remove that successfully now. We've got a major support at 30,000. Here's the awesome thing. Take a look at this. We're above the 50 and the 200-day simple moving averages. Okay, that's fantastic. Now, it doesn't mean we're out of the woods yet because the price will likely retrace and come back down and test the 200. That's my speculation. So see how it responds to that first, and then we proceed, right? But for now, definitely a big pump in the last 4 hours. That was a pretty nice little pushback. Now, something we want to know also too is we have a previous support level, or correction, actually previous resistance, which we hope becomes a support. I'll mark that now. It's roughly at about 41,000. So let's go ahead and actually 40,500 is pretty darn close to the resistance there. So we'll mark that guy first. And then also note we have 36,500 as the most recent resistance. That was where the price turned around on us. So that being said, we'll go ahead and mark that too, just for future reference. So note that we're halfway through our progression here. 36.5 is the next major milestone. All right. But good news is we're up over the 50 and the 200. It did close above. That's a great sign. As you can see in the past, though, it has closed above and retraced. So please, please, be cautious, be careful. See how the price comes back down and bounces off of the 200-day simple moving average. I mean, there's a chance it may not even come back down and test at all if we were still in a bull run. But right now, based on the way that Bitcoin tends to progress, it traditionally will pump like it did just now into a state of consolidation and test the next closest support and resistance level, which is the 200 at approximately 33,000. So I'd venture to guess we're going to see the price come down to 33 and bounce, and or proceed below and kind of start retracing back down. All right, so that's kind of where we're at there for Bitcoin. So just keep that in mind. Now we'll go ahead and take a look at Ethereum. It should be very similar here for Ethereum. As you can kind of tell, it is an extremely similar time frame here as far as how the price ramped up, went a little bit of sideways and ramped up again. Now, Bitcoin was a little bit more exaggerated because that's usually how it works, being Bitcoin. Most other altcoins will pump afterwards, which we saw here. It was kind of a slight delay, but it pumped nonetheless, right? So no other way to look at it. Good news is we're up over the 200 and the 50-day simple moving average, which is fantastic. Major support level that was tested is 1725. That's still holding. And as far as major resistance, we're a little ways away from that, but that is 2900. That was tested about 10 times in the past. So hopefully we can see that happen again. as far as testing and possibly breaking through. But I would say in the meantime, we do have a pretty strong little resistance here at about 2,400. And I don't know if you've noticed this at all. Again, this isn't exact science, but for the most part, support and resistance levels typically occur at round numbers. Okay, so pay attention to that. So if you're going to put a stop, put it above or below that round number. That way, you don't get stopped out, or perhaps you get the chance to be able to stay in the trade, because the simple fact of the matter is industry leaders, industry standards, they're always searching for round numbers. It's more often than not you'll see that happen. Anyways, just a little fact there. But yeah, right around 2,400 is the next major resistance, which is very similar to the 36,500 for Bitcoin. They're both probably in the same exact trajectory. All right, that is Ethereum on the 4-hour chart. Now let's take a look at Axie, which is AXS. Now it's obviously blowing up pretty good here. Pretty strong past few days, if I don't mind saying myself. Obviously, last 24 hours, huge. So first things first, we want to note is the fact that on the 1-day chart, we just look for an average true range. Now it's really hard to identify an average true range based on Axie, just how it blew up here recently. I mean, we're looking at about no less than 3 weeks ago, the price was at $4. Now it's 10x at 40 plus 3 weeks later. That's some pretty significant growth. And keep in mind too, what is it? 200% of that growth occurred in the last 3 days. That's huge. And this is all contrary to Bitcoin doing well. Now keep in mind, Bitcoin doing well, Axie shot up even further. That's insane. That's awesome. We love to see that. It's hard to say what will happen specifically. We'll take a look at smaller time frames. But generally speaking, there's some really strong fundamentals here, and you should reference that on your own. But there's a reason why Axie is performing so well. We're not here for that. We're here for the technicals, but do your own research if you're going to invest in Axie, because there's obviously some good stuff going on there. I really like what I see from this company. Sorry, I say company. I'm used to trading stocks a while ago. As far as coin, I'm referring to Axie coin. I don't know if there is a company referred to as Axie, but if so, that's great. Let's go ahead and move on. Let's take a look at the RSI. Big surprise, RSI was previously up over 70, stayed over 70 for quite a long time, retraced and bounced back. So as far as correlation between this and Bitcoin, if we look at the 1-day chart for Bitcoin, see here, the last 3 days was strong, and we had a retrace for 5 days prior to that. So let's take a look here. So last 3 days are strong for Bitcoin, and we had a retracement there too. So there's no doubt that Bitcoin does affect and impact Axie. However, the thing here is obviously, we saw a whole lot of sideways action here, and Axie just went crazy, right? So obviously, when you see that, there's a fundamental catalyst that drove the price up. There's no other way around it. That being said, let's quickly take a look here. As you can see, a strong convergence here as well on the MACD on the 22nd. That was yesterday. So that would have been an indication of a buy signal for a coin like this, right? So I wish I had caught that, because that would have been a really good indication or an alert on your MACD to catch that. Those are nice things to be able to find. That being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the 4-hour chart. See what's going with Axie here now. These are some pretty strong 4-hour candlesticks. I like the fact that the price is over the 200 and the 50 still. Pretty strong, pretty safe to say that it's not going to, I wouldn't say it's not going to come down, but I don't think it's going to crash per se. Even though it's extremely elevated, we have nothing but positive and good bullish signs here. And what I mean by that is, if you look at these time frames here, look at this. Look how the price ramps up and then goes sideways for a little bit. So up, sideways, up again. We might see sideways and a downward action, and then perhaps another ramp back up, because this is definitely a full-on bullish run. If Bitcoin pushes to 36.5 or 40,000 plus, we're going to see some maybe triple digits from Axie. I wouldn't be surprised. But nonetheless, no matter how you look at it, RSI is up considered overextended. It's really high. So traditionally, what I like to do is wait for the RSI to come back down to exit my position or trim. So if you have a position open right now, you have a couple of choices. You can hold on, maybe set a stop limit roughly halfway down, maybe around $36, $37 in case it comes retracing back down. It should come retracing back down some, because it's really extended right now. But the bottom line is, you want to try to take some profits, right? So hopefully you got in the 10 to 20, even $30 range, and you'd be doing pretty well right now. And if so, again, got to protect your nest, you got to protect your investment. So I consider recommend considering taking some. Even though it could likely continue, you don't have to exit your full position, just take some profit, right? Because there's nothing worse than leaving a bunch of money on the table. I hate that feeling. I like to take small wins when I can get them, and this is a pretty strong win right now, if you ask me. So everything's looking good. I mean, we obviously had a strong convergence back here on what, the 20th at roughly 1300. So let's go ahead and mark that on the chart here. So 20th at 1300, that was right here. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. Let's take a look at the 1 hour chart now. I always turn off the moving averages just because it makes more sense to have less noise on the charts. To me personally, I prefer that. So let's take a look here. So this is the mark that I'd made for the MACD convergence. And I like to mark that just because it typically coincides with like the Ishimoku cloud and a few other indicators. So it's good to kind of know. So let's take a look at the cloud here and just kind of see where we're at. So look at this here. First of all, in the 1 hour chart, these are 1 hour time frames. So approximately 4 hours, let's just say 6 hours. So 6 hours after the MACD showed us a convergence, the price broke above the cloud and stayed above the cloud since. Right? Obviously, we got some retracement now. That makes sense. Most retracements occur about 50% of the way. So we should expect the price to go no lower than 38, maybe 36. And likely bounce, but that's regardless. We'll look at that, perhaps a little bit closer at the 15-minute chart. But what I'm getting at here is if you don't use the Ishimoku cloud on the 1 hour chart, what are you doing with yourself, right? What are you doing? I'm joking mostly because obviously there's other indicators you can utilize, but it seems to be the most consistent. So I like to point out the fact that the 4 hour chart gives us good convergences on the MACD when those lines cross, when the 12 and the 26 intersect in an upward fashion. I mark it, and looking at that here, that gave us basically the precursor, the premonition, so to speak, that it will try to break above the cloud. It almost always works within about 4 to 8 hours. Sometimes it's only 1 to 2 hours. That's even better because then it usually breaks above a lot quicker. You can get in faster, but generally speaking, here really strong, really good stuff. Let's take a look at TD sequential. We're probably going to start seeing some numbers. Look at that. It's not crazy. On a retracement, it's still counting up because it moved up so quickly. We'll probably won't see a 9 here, just based on the fact that TD sequential looks 4 bars back. So if we go back 4 bars, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, it's higher here, but we'll probably stop at 8 and get reset. But regardless, that's kind of an indication of the fact that we are reaching a state of exhaustion for the growth, and that will likely retrace even further. So just bear that in mind. This kind of tells us that we have a few more bars to go before it sees its bottom. And generally speaking, the common rule of thumb is if you see in this case here, it was a 4 hour bar, obviously we saw the big one, but this, this 3 hour time frame, it moved up 60%. So we split the difference and go right about halfway. So again, that puts us right around a support level of approximately $38 to $39. Okay. Now that's not consistent. Don't get me wrong. That doesn't work all the time, but it's kind of an average, right? We kind of got to go with averages when it comes to statistics. That's basically what it is. 80% of statistics are made up on the spot, right? It's that whole thing. But what I can tell you is just in my experience, most retracements in cryptocurrency, since they happen so fast, will retrace roughly 50, maybe 60% of the total distance it traveled in that time frame. Yeah. So just note that it probably hasn't come to its bottom yet. So if you're planning to take entry, you might want to wait a moment and wait until it finds its bottom. We want to have confirmation. And I'll show you on the 15-minute chart what that looks like. In fact, why don't we go ahead and take a look at that now? So the 15-minute chart. First of all, let's go ahead and clean it up here. Take a look at this little run. So the things we use on the 15-minute chart is quite simple, quite straightforward. If you're new to the channel, I use the Ishimoku, sorry, we just looked at that. I use the EMA 15, so the exponential moving hour average on the 15. I also utilize the volume weight average price. Now the V-WAP is awesome and unfortunate depending on how you use it. In crypto, it's not 100%, but it works very well. The reason why I say that is because it's traditionally designed for a 24-hour trading period where there's pre-market, the trading time frame, and then the post-market. It's normally just like a 12 to 16-hour time frame where the market isn't open all day. It has to reset, and that standard deviation lines, they reset, the higher and lowest point. In this example here, if you see this blue line, you see how it shot up right here to catch itself up, basically reset. So it reset right here, and what this is a volume weight average price. So it takes the volume last 24 hours, expresses it as a price. So that being said, right now what we're looking at is the price is under VWAP, which makes sense considering it was over VWAP prior. But now that it's reset itself, you can obviously see it's working as a resistance. Okay. It was working as a support before, but the bottom line that you need to understand and take away here is that the VWAP gives us a constant support and resistance level in a 24-hour time frame, and it has to reset because the standard deviation lines get too high and too extreme that unless it takes an average of those, it will essentially reset itself. And that's what it does at 5 p.m. Pacific every single day. I think it's like 1 a.m. UK. You can count up or down from there. That's just kind of how it works. But I use it as a support and resistance level when I'm taking entry. So my confirmation is to ensure the price is above VWAP, because when it's under, like now, for example, unless you're considering a short position, there's no reason to go long right now. Okay? Furthermore, EMA, that's the red line here. So the EMA line is basically a continuous momentous indicator. And coincidentally, the MACD, which helps us, with some buy signals on the 4-hour chart, for example, it's very similar to that. It's an EMA 15 versus a 12 and a 26, converging and diverging. So if you look at this here and you see, it's nice because it's overlaid on the price. So the EMA essentially, when the price is over the red line here, it's considered bullish. When it's below, it's bearish. So as you can kind of see here, it was considered in a state of consolidation. So this is a kind of a place in which it's hard to find entry because you're kind of gambling it's going to go up or down because the price isn't distinguishing itself as, bullish or bearish. However, that's where the VWAP comes into play. Do you see how the volume weighted average price is working as a support? Holds it above? So the bulls are still in control, right? So that would have been a good consideration to take entry anytime along here. But to further that example, when you have the price reaching confirmation, it's kind of a trifecta, right? It doesn't happen all the time. And actually, it happens a lot. It's just that it doesn't always trigger. You want to look at other indicators. So the fact that we're over MACD and we had the convergence on the 4-hour chart, we're above the Ichimoku cloud on the 1-hour chart, we're in pretty good shape here. In other words, had we taken entry anytime along here, we would have been fine. But furthermore, we have good confirmation signals. So what I mean by that is that for me, confirmation is taking a trade when the price action is above EMA and VWAP. So as you can see, it's jumping up and down here, but these little yellow indicators are kind of telling us that we have confirmation. What confirmation is for me personally, this is my confirmation. I like it because it works more effectively, but you have to be patient, is a 2 15-minute green bars closing in succession. So if you take a look here, you see these 2 solid green bars closing. That is essentially confirmation. So this would be a good consideration for entry. Same with this as well. Now I know it's easy to look back and be like, oh gosh, yeah, it's easy to identify because it blew up right after that, and that hasn't happened, or that already happened. Yeah, that's all well and good. You're right. There's no doubt about that. But truth be told, it works out very, very effectively with other things present, right? So we don't just take entry considering these 3 things. We look at the 1-day chart, average true range, 4-hour chart, MACD, 1-hour chart, Ichimoku cloud, and work our way down, right? There's a system that you look at. Yes, it's timely. Yes, it's time consuming, or just generally speaking, it's not like an exact science, but it really increases your odds on finding good entry. So just say, for example, you take an entry here, that would have been somewhere in the range of, obviously it's easy to say because nobody really can find the top, but 55%. But just say you took an average and you sold right here at about 20% profit's awesome. I'll take that any day. And you would have made that in 45 minutes. Maybe an hour or 2, depending on how when you took entry, when you took exit. But the key takeaway here is that confirmation is waiting for the price action to be in the direction you want it to head, right? So why try to swim upstream when you can, just float downstream, right? It makes more sense. This is floating downstream, so to speak, because the fact that the bulls are in control, we've identified that. The price is over support, which is the VWAP line here. And then you have 30 minutes of confirmation that the bulls are in control. What more do you need, right? That makes the most sense to me, and it works very well. In fact, with my signal group, you'll see that we have a pretty good success right there. We're trending around roughly 75 to 85% depending on the month, but I utilize this strategy with all of my signals. It just seems to work really well, again, for me. My community members have also expressed benefit, so I do think that it's obviously very sound and beneficial, but that's just kind of an insight on what to look for there. Now, take a look at the price here. You can see how it's retracing down ever since we started. So we want to be careful. But again, like I'd mentioned, we've got a support level right around $38 or dollars or whatever you want to call it. We'll just go ahead and mark it here. Oh, wrong button there. All right, so what's cool too is you can kind of see a resistance line here as well where the price couldn't go any further until it broke through a second time. So I would venture to say that the price will come down and bounce off of 38 or possibly continue past. Now there's a chance it will, but what I was referring to earlier with that, with the average true range, so to speak, or the way that things retrace in crypto, is that they usually retrace, again, 50 to 60% of the way. So if we took the difference, from here, lowest point to the highest point, kind of something you do on the, the Fibonacci retracement tool, it's effectively the same concept, right? This is almost halfway. So oftentimes the price comes down and bounces off this halfway point, and it will turn itself around. And coincidentally, look at that. I called it earlier. Again, it's not necessarily an exact science, but according to the Fibonacci retracement tool, this is a support and resistance level. Same as what I marked, just based on a rough average of 50%. So that's generally how that works, and a lot of industry leaders will utilize something like this to take their entry or to manipulate the price. I hate to use the word manipulate because it's not like the whole thing is manipulated, but it's really just the bulls and the bears fighting each other, and we're just kind of stuck on the side trying to get our pieces, right? So the trick is to understand what they're doing before they do it and to try to execute accordingly, right? You're going to get wrecked if you're not patient and you're not careful. This is a more patient, careful process, a little more meticulous. You find less entries, but you find more successful gains. And that's what I prefer to do. Gain your portfolio by 1% per day, and you'll always be successful. Guaranteed. Just try not to risk too much. So have a good risk tolerance. That's a conversation for another day. So either way, that's pretty much all I have for you here today. Oh, one last thing. Let's go ahead and do a prediction, right? Just to kind of clear the air, because that's what I get a lot of questions on. I mean, to me, I feel like the price is going to come down, either bounce or retrace. I know it kind of seems like it's very open because it could very well continue downwards, but pending Bitcoin doesn't decide to just dump to 30,000, I think we'll see some sideways action from Axie and then probably another pump, just based on the overall bull run that's had so far. But just keep in mind, we've had 3 days of super strong price action, so it has to either A, retrace, or B, go sideways for at least a day or two. Okay, so I wouldn't expect it to pump and go shoot to the moon right now. Again, if Bitcoin does shoot to 36.5 or 40,000, then we will see Axie probably do something similar and hit some triple digits. But I think Bitcoin is going to be calming down for a moment, possibly even retracing further before we see that happen, right? So that's kind of my prediction there. But I do feel like we have a pretty strong support at about $38. So let's see how the price reacts to that support level. All right, so if you found benefit, please like and subscribe. Consider contributing through my Patreon account, of course. Feel free to message me on Telegram or all the other social medias, and just have a good rest of your day. Really do appreciate your time. We'll see you in the next one.